So otherwise, regular meeting, Calvert County Board of Commission, February the 5th, 2024. Like the John made a moment for silent prayer, follow, president to the flag. Allegiance to the flag. We move on, we need a motion to go into closed session. I mean, not closed, so public hearing on High zoning amendment and billboard ordinance. Need a motion to it. So motion made by second by Powell. All in any question? All in favor saying aye. All opposed with second. Look hearing. It's gone Powell.
Good evening, commissioners and county manager and interim county manager person. So I'm here tonight to bring you guys the recommendation from the planning board on the Hyco Lake zoning amendment and the billboard ordinance. We have a new, I'd like to call him up, Jason Watlington, a new county planner. He started with us a few weeks ago. He was formerly our deputy EMS director, is now the planning director for Caswell County. He's actually going to make the presentation and answer any questions for you guys. I'll be here for consultation.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, our new manager, Attorney Johnson. Which public hearing would you like to start on, sir? Would you like to go to the billboard? Okay. So on September 5th, 2023, Matthew Hoagland, our previous planner, presented the outdoor advertising billboard ordinance. Planning board has completed its final review, and we are here tonight for your final approval and adoption. I think you may have gotten a email for the draft. I'd like to add the state of North Carolina provides for the regulation of outdoor advertising or billboards in two ways. Chapter 136, Article 11 of General Statutes allow for certain regulations to be imposed by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Developers require a permit from the Department of Transportation for these billboards. And they also forbid billboards along scenic byways. Secondly, Chapter 160D-912 gives counties and municipalities the authority to regulate billboards through local planning and development ordinances. So among other things, the draft ordinance before you does the following. It creates different definitions for digital billboards versus non-digital billboards. It would only allow billboards on actively used commercial or industrial properties. So we do not have zoning for most of the county. However, if this property has been used as residential property, they cannot be placed on these properties. If it is a normal business or industrial property, then a billboard could go there if it meets the other requirements. It would not allow billboards on scenic byways, other state maintained roads, or private roads. It imposes historic and natural aesthetic design and height standards on non-digital billboards and would only allow them along interstates or state highways. It would only allow digital billboards along designated interstates. We do have one on Highway 86 North. It created a development process and an annual renewal permit, inspection, and fees. Proposed fees would be a $500 for an initial permit, and $100 for annual inspections and renewal. The ordinance will ultimately be formatted to fit into Article 9 of the UDO. While this ordinance will not affect existing billboards, it will force them to conform if they were to be taken down and a new one placed. Just a few points from the draft. 30-foot maximum height will be 1,000 feet from schools, 1,000 feet from intersections, 2,500 foot from another billboard, 500 feet from residents. So there are some business areas that have homes beside them that have to be 500 foot from the rest. There will be a lease agreement from the property owner. Again, no scenic byways. We will have the annual permit and inspection. No, and this is kind of important. No existing can be replaced with a digital. So any of the existing ones, if they decide to rebuild, will not be able to get to do that. So are there any questions?
Help me out here.
Okay.
You said no private land unless it was a commercial.
Unless it has a business on that land.
Okay, let's say we have people, they're going to Danville up 86.
Okay.
Is that a scenic highway?
Actually, I do have a list. Closed to billboards. Well, I'll give you the roads that are closed to these billboards. All of North Carolina Highway 150. These are scenic byways or colonial heritage byways. Highway 150, 158 through West Yanceyville and that area. North Carolina Highway 62 from Yanceyville to Milton. North Carolina 57 from Milton to Samora. Highway 119 from Samora to Stephentown Road and from Greer's Church Road to Alamance. All of Highway 86 from Highway 158 to the Orange County line. Those are our noted scenic byways. And then, of course, the town has an ordinance of no billboards.
So basically, if somebody wanted to put a billboard up, advertise their business to catch the traffic going to Danville, there wouldn't be anywhere to put one.
Donnie, you want to help me out on the?
Yeah, so there are some regulations for putting billboards on property or at least signs on property where you're advertising your existing business that's there on the property. You can do that, like the existing business that's there on the property. And also, just so you know, when he mentioned the scenic byway on 86, everything from Highway 158, which is there at the Hardee's intersection, to Danville is not a scenic byway.
Right.
So that stretch of 86 north would not be excluded from having billboards.
So let's just say, it's probably a terrible example, but McDonald's could not put McDonald's 5 miles ahead anywhere down that way.
That's exactly right.
Correct.
Not south of them, they could not. They could potentially put one north on 86, but it would have to meet. A lot of this is regulated by the general statutes, and the DOT has regulations on where they can go, and a lot of the properties would not would not be able to have them.
From what I'm saying, because when you start knocking out private property, and I mean, I guess farms would be the same thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, there are not a lot of places that would be able to go in the county.
That $500 fee and the $100 inspection fee going forward, where did those rates come from? How were they established?
Mr. Hogla did a study on Rockingham County. I think he retrieved those from Rockingham. And again, this is a draft before you guys, and if there are changes that you would like to see made, take it back to the plan.
You feel like $100 covers the cost of the county sending somebody out to look at it every year?
Yes, sir. I'd basically go out, take a look at the vegetative cover around it, make sure that's okay, and just put my eyes on the sign to make sure it's not rotting or making our county look bad. So probably one of those things I may get out, but possibly wouldn't even get out of the truck for that.
What do you do in the event that you've got one that's not compliant or is, like you said, falling down? What are your steps to take care of correcting that situation?
We would actually send them a letter and let them know of what needs to be done and give them a certain amount of time. I have not studied up on the time that I will allow them, maybe a 30-day, maybe a 60-day time frame for them to become compliant.
And you did say, correct me if I'm wrong, on existing billboards, if they get destroyed with natural disaster, whatever, they still have to reapply or it's already up to the back.
Existing billboards can go back. They just have to go through the process. So they will not be on, they will be on highways that we're not allowing it due to the new ordinance. However, because they're there, they can rebuild exactly the same.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yeah, we know, right? It goes to the high court lake.
Yes, sir. I have one more.
The high court lake.
So you've been given Article 5, the Hyco Lake zoning districts from our UDO. I do have handouts if anyone does not have. So I will be referring to RB recreation business. So the planning board and myself are requesting to reduce minimum lot setbacks in the recreation business district. There are 4 parcels in our Hyco Lake zoning district noted as recreation business. Many of you are aware of Dollar General on 57. There's also the gas station, which some of us know it as the old Snake Ashby store right across from the Dollar General. And then the ABC store on 119. And right beside the ABC store is an old repair shop for boats, a storage site there. So this came about, there was an owner that wanted to look into options on that old boat repair site. He wanted to construct a storage facility. However, due to setbacks, only a very small portion of that land could actually be developed due to the setbacks. As you see, there are currently 100 front yard, 100 side yard, and 100 on the rear. So our consistency statement pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160D 604D, Caswell County Planning Board finds that the attached amendment to Article 5, Section 5.5 of the UDO is consistent with existing setbacks because it is similar to the current required building setbacks outside of the Hyco Lake District found in the Caswell County UDO Article 9. The proposed setbacks would mirror the current resort residential setbacks. Furthermore, it brings the existing businesses located in the RV recreational business parcels to compliance. So the actual businesses that are there are not compliant to the 100-foot setbacks. Mr. Chairman, would you allow me to pass out?
Go ahead.
want to hand you all a couple of maps just for reference. So page one, we've already looked at. Page two is the current Dollar General and the store across the street. So as you can see, the setbacks there are, some of them are 100 or greater, but for mostly they are less. Page two, you'll see the ABC store, and then beside it to the right, you'll see the boat repair parcel. And as you can see, those are, again, not compliant with the 100-foot setbacks. So probably the most important for you guys to look at will be the last page. And the green just denotes the area that can be built upon on this piece of property. Due to 100-foot setbacks.
That's what could be used as of right now, correct?
Yes, sir. If we follow the guidelines of the setbacks that are in place now. So as requested, we would like to go front yard 30, side yard 15, and the rear to 20.
There's an my math is correct. On the business requirement, lot size requirement we have now, like 30,000 square feet. That wouldn't even work with the numbers that you have, 100 by 100 by 100 by 100. You're looking at an acre there, 30,000 square feet, so it's an acre, so would work as is properly.
Right.
Being combined.
Right. Yeah, the Dollar General fills that lot up there also. And I think the rear or side setbacks on the Dollar General were tight. It would be tough. Besides the Snake Ashton store area, that's the only lot that really could conform.
Have you had any feedback from the neighbors around the property in place? How do they feel about it?
No, sir. No, sir. We didn't get any response from the advertising.
I would add just a note of clarification, on something that you said, Commissioner Yarborough earlier. I'm not sure when they created the UDO, when I went back and looked at the original Hyco Lake zoning ordinance, it wasn't clear, those setbacks weren't clear for, residential business and recreational business, excuse me, and, I'm not sure that those setbacks weren't incorrectly placed in there, because like you said, with a 30,000 square foot lot, there would be no usable space on that lot at all. With those setbacks. So I'm thinking those setbacks when they were converted from the original Hyco Lake zoning ordinance into the UDO, may have been incorrectly, placed there, those setbacks.
So am I understanding it correctly that you're really asking us to mirror the rest of the county's rules and implement those in Hyco Lake area?
Yes, sir. Just for the recreation and business area.
Oh, having more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Guess we need a motion to go out.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman, can you see if anyone in the audience would like to speak at the public hearing as well?
What you think?
Can you see if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak during this public hearing as well?
Anyone in the audience wants to speak on the topic? Come on, Adam.
Well, this public hearing is only related to the Hyco Lake zoning.
Never mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. What meeting will we go to if we want to talk to something about the county about something? Just,
They said later.
just, okay.
He can't.
No one in the public wants to speak on the zoning, so I guess we have most of going by. Motion made by. Okay, who's second?
Second.
Second, Rose, all in favor, saying aye. All opposed, never set some registration. I guess we need to vote on these. Things, because he brought it before us, and I guess the billboard order came first, so I guess what's the pleasure of vote?
It would be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Gillis, second by McRae, all in favor saying aye. Any question before we go there? Any question? All in favor of the motion, saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous. Next one be High Court. Take a motion to approve that.
Make motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Rose and who's second by McKay. Y'all heard the motion, any question? All in favor saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda will be public comment. Ms. Robinson. Robinson. Yeah.
I have a couple of recommendations. One is that the county consider opening a DMV office where the close to the tax office. And you all do the registrations and things of cars. Other counties are starting to do this. The DMV wants the counties to do it because they're having problems with the contractors. A lot of the contractors aren't open 5 days a week. Some of them aren't even open 2 days a week now because they can't get employees. With the county, it would take 2 employees in this county based on the size of this county. And you could make Thomas Bernard the supervisor of it. He would have to go to the bank every day and put money in the bank, but the DMV would pay for everything. They pay for the computers, they maintain them, they maintain the VPN. You all don't have to worry about any of that. And they have some restrictions, like you can't use wireless devices and things in the DMV office. When I mean wireless mice and stuff on the computers. They supply all the computers and they do all the maintenance. So you don't have to worry about anything. Will you make a profit? No, you will break even. I know some other counties have already done it. They break even on it, but it's a convenience to the taxpayers. And usually when they go in the office to pay their registration fee, if they owe back taxes or anything, they can just walk over, pay their taxes. You get that out of the way at the same time. That's why you have it co-located. So it's a convenience really to the taxpayers of Caswell County. The other thing is the employees would be employees of Caswell County. The DMV would train them. You could probably get a couple that's already trained from these contractors. The contractor that's here in this county probably has an employee that would be glad to go to work for the county, and they have benefits. These contractors don't pay their employees benefits. Most of them are the people that work for them are contract employees, so they give them 1099s at the end of the year. So it's really a convenience for the taxpayers of Caswell County. And it'd be open 5 days a week instead of maybe 1 day a week where they have to go to Alamance and stand in line or some other county. And then they find out they owe taxes, and they have to drive back to this county, pay the taxes, get the receipts, and go back to the other counties. It's just a pain in the butt for the residents of Caswell County. So you can, if you need help setting this up, I've already talked to another county that set it up, and the guy that's in charge of it said he would help this county get it all set up. But the DMV will give you the directions, the instructions, and set everything up for you. The money will not be commingled with county money. It's a separate account. It's a state DMV account. They set it up with the bank, so it doesn't go through your books. But you do have a record of how much money you bring in every day. And they do the credit card services and everything. So that's more of a convenience for taxpayers, and it's just a recommendation. Another thing I think you should consider is putting a FTZ in out close to Interstate 29. Now, this is a free trade zone. I don't know if you all know about free trade zones, but anytime products come in from overseas, when they come in through customs and everything, they have to pay customs duties and taxes on it. Well, free trade zone, they bring the products in, put them in a free trade zone. They don't have to pay the customs duties and taxes at that time. So all these car parts and all these other parts that come into the country, they don't have to pay taxes on it right away. It may sit in the free trade zone for a year or two. Well, once it goes out of the free trade zone, they have to pay taxes on it. Now, it's not county taxes. That's customs duties and taxes the federal government charges. But the advantage to the county would be that the property, you would collect taxes off the property, and you could collect taxes off the personal property. So you would collect real and personal property. And I suggest the county don't buy this property or own it or try to manage it. You get one of these firms that already does that. That way you can collect the real property and personal property. If the county owns it, you're not going to collect any taxes. So the thing is that they got them in North Dakota of all places, so that you can put them just about anywhere. And the reason it has to be, would have to be 29 is because of the truck traffic. And sometimes they just bring big containers in and just set them there. Another advantage to this county is it's unskilled and semi-skilled workers that work at these places. So there's a lot of unskilled and semi-skilled workers in Caswell County that could work there. That would help with the employment. Of course, that would help with taxes and other stuff. But I would suggest for the first 2 years, whatever company comes in here, you give them some kind of tax break that they don't have to pay taxes maybe for the first 2 years. Then after that, you can start collecting taxes. You're looking for the future. Another thing I wanted to suggest is that you do a solar ordinance. I checked. I cannot find that this county has a solar ordinance. This is very important. We've been fooled by solar energy. It is not environmentally friendly, and I can prove that if anyone wants to talk to me later. They use carcinogenic materials to build these solar panels. These solar panels are not made in the US. They're made in China and Malaysia because they don't have the EPA restrictions that we do. That way, what that means is these solar panels cannot be put in landfills. So what's going to happen to them? Other counties I've helped them develop solar ordinances, and these other counties that have them have the solar companies that put these solar farms, put a bond up. They do not like doing this. But the reason is when the solar panels have about a 25-year life. When these go bad, what are you going to do with the solar farm? The company that puts it in, they're going to leave. Someone's got to get rid of all those solar panels and all that stuff that's being put up there. Also, there needs to be restrictions. So if the solar farm is along a main road, that you have some kind of vegetation there so you don't see it. Other thing is, it's got to be without having an ordinance. It should not be within 5 miles of your little airport out here because it causes glare. A plane coming in, and if there's glare off of it, it could crash. There's a lot of they have to get permission from the FAA. Now, I worked at the county where a solar farm company came in, was going to put it within the 5 mile limit of the airport. And when they turned the paperwork in, the county asked me to look at it as a favor. I was doing some other work there. I started looking at it. Their approval from on the FAA for some airport in Georgia. They thought this county wouldn't notice the
What's around?
location, yes.
We kind of scheduled 3 minutes to most of the people, and we don't want to.
Okay.
About silver life.
All right,
In yours, if you don't mind.
all right, that was for the solar stuff. And this county also needs a disaster recovery plan. I looked at the emergency services plan they had back in 2002. It was out of date and they didn't want to pay for anyone to fix it. But what a disaster recovery plan for the county is, if someone drives a tanker truck in the down 86 and it crashes.
I think, Mr. Rouse, you can come back on the next meeting and kind of.
Okay, I have one other thing to say,
Thank you, sir.
and then I'll shut up.
Mr. Roberts, I apologize. We have a 3-minute maximum.
Oh, I didn't know that,
Yes, sir. So you're welcome to come back to the next.
but I applied for the county manager's job, as you all know. I'm a resident of this county for over 30 years. I'm also a disabled veteran. I didn't even get an interview. I'd like to know why.
Thank you. That's right, yes, and then right there. Go.
Harrison? Hi, my name is Carol Harrison from Hatchet Road, and I've worked in the database industry for 30 years, and I do question the security of collections. So I tried to find out the amount we spend on machines, software upgrades, the certifications, and I was going to propose, as stewards of the county's money, that this county is set up perfectly with 7 the smaller precincts under 2,000 people, which we could hand count the ballots. So I'm just, instead of getting into all the machine information, which I do know about, and I can provide information if anybody's interested in that. But just for the budget purposes, for the tax dollars, for the citizens, if we provided where we hand counted, we can have registered voters participate, and we could live stream, so there would be transparency about our votes. And anyway, so that's just a proposal. And I can provide any information if you'd like to get some more information.
I'm not the best speaker, but, you know, we have had issues with,
You could just say the name for the record.
Okay, yeah. My name is Wes Harris and I live on Hatchet Road, and throughout our country, there is a discrepancy with elections and all that. So what we can do is we can lead the country and just do paper ballots. And everybody's counting. I mean, we've had veterans that fought for our country. They've lived, they've died. Our country was founded on that. At the beginning of this meeting, we all bowed our heads to God. You know, we opened this meeting in prayer. We owe it to ourselves. We all stood and pledged allegiance to the flag. And everybody in Caswell County, doesn't matter who you vote for, it doesn't matter. But your vote has to count. And I don't believe it's a county thing. I think everything's being run in all the counties, you know, with the machines. There's discrepancies, you know, our cell phones get hacked, our computers get hacked, and people like to play it off and like it's a conspiracy thing and all that, but it has been proven throughout the country, and I do believe that we owe it to our people. It doesn't hurt. It's a small enough county, like she said, we can save money not having the machines. Everybody's vote will count. You know, and I think it's, you know, we owe it to people. People have died in this country for, you know, defending freedom. We owe it to our children. We're losing it. Look at the overspending. If you take your cell phones, they'll do trillions of dollars, the math, right? I think it's right now our national deficit is $34 million a day since Jesus Christ walked this earth. Every day since he walked this earth, or this planet, it's like $34 million a day. I think it's more than that, actually. Do the math on it. Right now, they're overspending by $2 trillion. Look at the border, all the people coming across the border. Like, I'm all for it. Like, this is America. Everybody can come here and have their dream, you know, that's a good thing. I'm not against that. But we need to be we're losing our country. So, and I think we can start by just having a free and fair election and, you know, save money too, doing it and show the country that we care about saving this. So, anyway, hope I didn't. I'm Wes and Carol. We moved here like 7 years ago, and this has been, thank you for listening to us.
Okay. That's the end of the public's comments. Next on the list is recognition. Mr. Young?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You?
I'd like to recognize Miss Susan Pendergraft. She worked with the animal shelter for 20-some years, and she has just recently, in the last week, retired.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I would like to recognize from the EMS. This weekend, they had a real bad call for the EMS responded. They were short of help. Only one person went. And out there in that community, I don't know the young, well, I don't know whether he's young or not. Man, Sam Butler came to the rescue to help the EMS. And I would like to recognize him and also EMS. He ended up driving the ambulance because the man that was hurt, David Bird, needed immediate help. And the EMS stayed in the back with him, rendering that help while Sam Butler drove in to the hospital. I'm not sure which hospital.
Is David okay?
Yeah, he's a tree or limb or something fell on him. And what I understand, and he had a concussion plus everything and things. And so I think he has a follow-up appointment where he's had one, I'm not one because he was a concussion and other things happened with the shoulder and back and all that stuff.
How about you, Rick? Excuse me, sorry, it's something I had, Scott, how about staying up? This is, New Canton man, Scott Rosario, I hope I pronounced it right, it's part of, yes.
Mazars.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, need to approve of the agenda. Well, we want to take, scratch item 15. Can it be approved? All right, need a motion to approve. Motion made by Rick Ray, who second? Second by, all in favor saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous. I need a motion for approval of the Senate agenda, January 16, 2024, regular meeting. Minutes. Second. Motion made by Ms. Gwen, second by Mr. Hope, all in favor saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous. Discussion item, LT threat report.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Jason Benson, the IT Director. Good evening. So I just wanted to report that on December 22nd, 2023, a county employee reported that their email had been potentially compromised. We did an investigation and we revealed that there was unauthorized access from IP addresses through a VPN connection. The affected email account was promptly locked down and the North Carolina Joint Cybersecurity Task Force was engaged. The actions that we took were we accessed the logs, uncovering the unauthorized access extending into the previous month. The laptop was secured for scans to ensure no malicious activity was found. Conditional access was implemented during the holidays, limiting email access to county offices only to thwart potential threats. Exemptions were gradually granted for essential users that require continuous email while traffic logs were closely monitored. Additional security measures were introduced, allowing compliant devices unrestricted access with plans to remove additional exemptions. The response from the North Carolina Cybersecurity Task Force, they advised us that we took appropriate steps and to anticipate a period of heightened activity of threats. They suggested on an incident report at ic3.gov, which is kind of like an aggregate for cybersecurity complaints that go to numerous law enforcement agencies across the nation. And we did that the same day. And they recommended applying for the state and local cybersecurity grant program. And we did that on January 31st before that period closed. For future preparedness, we have ongoing preparations for the 2024 cybersecurity initiatives that are underway, aiming to fortify the county's infrastructure against additional cyber threats, focusing on enhancing the ability to mitigate and eliminate malicious emails, planning to provide additional cybersecurity training to all users as a recurring measure. This incident prompted swift and thorough responses involving both immediate actions to address the breach and strategic preparations for future cybersecurity initiatives, highlighting a proactive approach to safeguarding the county's digital infrastructure. Are there any questions?
Jason, any, excuse me, any idea where this originated from?
I mean, it was through a VPN, so there's no way to really track it past that point. It would pop up in New York or New Jersey or Florida or California, just random hotspots.
So we had nothing compromised.
Not that we are aware of. We were able to identify one email exchange that was unauthorized, and at that point, that's when we locked everything down. But past that point, nothing else has been detected.
Anyone else have any questions? Tracy? Okay, we move on to action item. Tell Emma's approach.
Yes, Commissioners, several weeks ago, I proposed to the board that we consider selling timber on the Pelham industrial site, approximately 65 acres. So we received bids they cruised the property and came back and reported that the timber there would bring in between $15,000 and $20,000. And the reason it's not low is because it has been cut fairly recently and it just hasn't grown back yet. So, I mean, it's not a whole lot of money, but we need to consider, we want to do that and have the income applied towards signage and roads and be able to see the site, or do we just want to come back and look at the site later when we have a prospect?
So we only, did we advertise or we just got one bid?
We just got one bid, but we talked to multiple bidders and they said they knew the property, they didn't have anything on it, and they weren't interested in giving us bids.
So they didn't have the money on it. That's what you're saying?
It was a regular,
There's no timber on it.
it's very little timber.
We're talking about 65 acres over
Yeah,
there.
but
Yes,
it
sir.
hadn't been long since it was cut.
How long, do you know how long it has been?
I do not know that. They said it had been cut fairly recently.
How many
I'll go
years?
by there and
Do you
look.
know how many years?
I couldn't figure out what you're talking about cut.
Do you know how many years the timber been
I
cut?
do not know that much.
I thought there's hardwoods on the backside.
Certain hardwoods have to be left in place for protecting streams and so forth, environmental purposes.
Understood that, so.
And that's about what was already left.
What's the pleasure of the board? You asked for us to approve this, right?
Yes, sir.
What's the pleasure of the board? We got $15,000, I believe, in 20,000.
15 and 20. Mr. Smith, did they make any kind of comment as to how long it would have to be there before you were more money than what it is now? Time frame?
They did not.
Right, that's Adam. You know this. All right, for votes, then what's the pleasure of the board? When you go to vote on it. Start with you right there, Mr. Young.
If there's nothing, since it was last cut, nothing was replanted. It's all just volunteer stuff. It'll never be worth much, never. Not in our lifetime. Get a little money out of it to do some road work and signage. Might as well sell it and clean the mess up.
So yours again?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Yes, Brian? Yes?
Yes.
So I have to vote, I have to vote yes too, so all in favor saying aye? All opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you all, seven.
Thank you.
Okay. Finance. Orders. Mr. Price.
Good evening, everyone. Sure you're glad to be done with June 30, 2021. We appreciate all the effort from J&J, Jennifer Hammock and Jonna and all the other staff that were involved in this. You should have a presentation summary that was part of your packet. That's what I'm really going to jump from. On page 1 of that package, under qualitative aspects of the accounting practices, it talks about accounting policies, estimates, which included depreciation and allowance for doubtful accounts, as well as some of the financial statement disclosures. We were okay with all of those. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Once we got all the stuff, we were good, but getting all the stuff was a challenge. Any misstatements, adjusting journal entries were made with those. As we finished, there were no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated January 17th. We're unaware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors, etc. Under findings and issues, and there's also a section in the audit report except about findings and issues. I'm gonna back up and say this too. Even though it has been 30 months, and that's what it says in this, our focus, along with the help from financial staff and Jonna, has been trying to get to a point where we can issue a quote unquote unmodified report. Unmodified report's a big deal as you go forward trying to issue any debt that you might have, getting any grants, etc. You don't want anything but an unmodified report. So getting to the point where we can sign off on that was a big deal. I know you hired an outside firm to help you on reconciling, catching up all your statements. So we were able to issue an unmodified report. So that's a good thing for the county. There is some other good stuff for the county. I'm going to read some stuff that you, whether it's us or anybody else you hire, the June 30th, 2022 and the June 30th, 2023. Get back up here. I'm probably going to read the same thing to you. Again, the real issue in terms of findings or things, what you're really trying to get to is get this behind you and move forward so that you can operate, apply for grants, debt, whatever you need to do as a county to operate at full capacity for all your resources and get that. So we need to continue to run this thing to get it done and get it behind you. And I'm not trying to say, hey, let's just run it, sign off. I'm just saying there's momentum to get this done. I really encourage you to get it done and move forward so that you know where you are, which is a big deal, so you can make the appropriate decisions, et cetera. As I get past these findings, one of the good, healthy things that you're gonna find, and I think it even gets better after my numbers here for June 30, 2021, is that your fund balance for the general fund is good. It's increasing. The charts will show that. So even though we got some significant issues that had to be worked through, at the end of the day, your general fund balance had an increase. And the projections for the next couple of years is it's going to increase each of those years. So working to move and get this behind you so that you can know what you have, make decisions that you need to make is a big deal. Getting off the watch list from the local government commission is a big deal, et cetera. So that's kind of a precursor to go through this, but it's not all bad news. If at the end of the day, there were no findings and your numbers were horrible, that would be really bad news, in my opinion. This is fixable. It's in the process of being fixed, but it is a process to get there. And so that's about as good news as I can give you, but it's not bad at the end because your numbers are when the fund balance is going up and you can get the processes fixed in order to have the records that you need and the information you need to make decisions you need to make. That's a good scenario, but it has to be followed up on and actually fixed. So you can see there, audit report 30 months from the year end. I pray that I can come back to see you 3 more times this year after tonight with a 22, a 23, and a 24. And come December 31st, y'all are celebrating Christmas with audit reports. So that sounds crazy, but from a financial standpoint, that's a really good thing. You see, the bottom of page 2 talks about the various key processes being completed timely. Many of those things are just simply reconciling bank statements to making sure you're reconciling the subsidiary ledgers, which does the tax collected tied to what's on the general ledgers as tax that was collected. And in many cases, some of those subsidiary ledgers weren't being tied. And so going back to fix that was a heck of a process that somebody had to work through in order for us to be able to go, okay, they tie, it's here. You know, I'd say in here that on top of page 3, changes made in staff caused some of these issues. EMS receivable balances have to be, as well as allowances, have to be made timely so that you know what's going on. You've got some negative fund balance that need to be cleared up. Depreciation schedules have to be kept in line, not just at the end of the year, but as you go through the year to make sure if you don't do it through the year, then at the end of the year, everybody's scrambling. It makes getting all the data harder to get. You can't remember. Everybody's scrambling to try to finish and give that auditor. Things can get missed. Transfers have to be budgeted. They can't just be because you got the money, you can't move it between funds without proper authority. You are that proper authority. It needs to be brought to you and approved. There were a couple of loans outstanding. We need to review and agree the agreements on those. There was some prior period stuff that had to be made to clean things up. And there was not a budget adopted for GASB 84. Yeah, some of the documentation was difficult to get up with. There's some findings on Medicaid in the audit report. No money, but findings on technical issues. Files should not be located on individual computers, but stored on the server. And I'll say this, and for non-accountants, this is boring stuff, but it's a pain in the butt to get it all together to comply with the standards. GASB 87, which talks about leases. basically, if you have a long-term lease, as it relates to real estate especially, you have to book that lease as if it were a purchase of fixed asset, both the asset and do some computations to actually put a debt on the books. So that'll happen in June 30, 22. In June 30, 23, you'll have another standard which called GASB 96, which if you've got software that's subscription based and it's over a year long, you have to do the same thing we're talking about on the lease stuff. You may have to get somebody to help with some of those computations. There is some stuff out there the LGC has. I'm not saying I'm for or against these standards, because I'm not for them, because I hate them, to be honest with you, because I don't think they provide you any usable data. But they are required by the powers that be, both at the federal and the state level, in order to get an unmodified report. So getting on top of those, John, I've had some conversations about that, because those things are what takes some work to accumulate how many leases you have, how many software subscriptions you have that are longer than a year. The 22 and 23, you've got some reports that you have to get, Leo reports, et cetera, all these retirement actuarial data stuff that you have to get in order to complete the audit. Those are things that have to be on top of in order for us to finish what we can do, besides reconciling the bank statements, doing the depreciation schedule, and tying the subsidiary schedules together. So those are things that have to be done as quickly as possible. And I would say, fortunately, now is as great a time as any, because you get into the fall and you don't have that done. Everybody and their brother wants the same thing done. In the spring, some of these groups that do this aren't as busy, and they can probably turn that around real quick, which should enable us to catch up these 22 and 23 audits a lot faster. So that's the healthy thing. So if you are kind enough to flip over to page 5 of this presentation summary, I'm not saying these are all the key numbers in the report, because it takes a lot of stuff to do that. But what I attempt to do is put some of the key numbers here in this first column for 21, and then go back to the previous 4 years audit reports, so that you have some idea and context of what the number is, and don't just give you fund balance when general fund's 11,453,000. You go back to 17, you see that number 6,467,000, and it's increased every year. So when I was saying you have some findings, but the number is good in terms of increasing. The unavailable fund balance, 3,074,000, the restricted at 7.2 million, total general fund expenditures, including transfers out, is 27,482,000. The fund balance available as a percentage is 30.49%. You go back to 17, it's 17.83%. And from what John is telling me, the projections on fund balance in 22 and 23 will increase in the fund balance. This fund balance percentage should continue to rise. This is just thoughts here. One of the things that the LGC looks hard at in terms of debt issuance is this fund balance available percentage, tax collection percentage, and a strong fund balance as a dollar number. So a lot of these things are healthy overall, even though there's challenges to finish this thing up. So it's not all bad news. Unassigned fund balance, 4.2 million. Unassigned fund balance as a percentage at 15.31%. And then you got revenues over and under expenses before transfers, and you see the total there in the general funds, $1.4 million. If you transfer this to private business, that basically be your profit for the year, if you will. Other governmentals had a negative 2,978,000. You can't really gauge anything on that, because that's projects, and it depends on where the project is, and you get money in, you spend money from a loan or grant. That's what that's about. It's not necessarily your general fund where you're worried about making a profit. Solid waste had a negative 237,000. Transportation fund was a positive 39,000. You can see cash there in your general fund at 9.5 million. If you go back to 17, you can see that's 5.4 million. Other governmentals, 11 million. Again, that has no real value there whatsoever because it could be a loan, state-based grant came in 21, so that's what a lot of the cash is. That money's gonna be spent. And then cash and transportation is 495,000. Again, general fund balance 11.4 million, other governmentals 11 million. Solid waste net positions a negative 146, and net position in transportation 793,000. You see your property tax rates there for all 5 years. Collection percentage 98.78% is actually the best of any of the 5 years shown. You see total property valuation there and levy amounts next. See your governmental debt is 17,946,000. And then your breakdown of your general fund and revenues and expenditures, total general fund being 28,670,000 and total expenditures 27,260,000. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 6. At the top of page 6, it shows the bar chart there with total fund balance and restricted and committed. You see what I'm talking about on total fund balance in blue there increasing, which is what you're definitely looking for. On the bottom of that page, you also see the fund balance available as a percentage. Even though you're below your group weighted average, you're still going from 17.83% up to 30.49%. And on page 7, at the top, you see analysis of fund balance available as a percentage. Unassigned fund balance, I'm sorry. You can see that at 15.31%. On the bottom, you see revenues over and under expenses before transfers. You see positive for the last 4 years in the general fund. And on page 8, you see your cash balances and fund balances by fund and a pie chart at the top with the totals underneath. With your cash balances total being 21,108,000, fund balances being 23.1 million. And then on page 10, you see in a pie chart there with the numbers beside it, where applicable, the debt at the we have that big government bond anticipation note there at 13.1 million. And then you see on the bottom a breakdown of your general fund revenue with ad valorem taxes making up the majority, which is why we tend to focus on collection percentages, et cetera, at 44.79%. And intergovernmental revenue, which is basically your sales tax, et cetera. And then the other taxes, which is grants, et cetera, associated. And then on page 11 has your breakdown of the general fund expenditures. And this has public safety and human services and general government, as well as education being the top 4 there. If you've been on the board a while, if you remember back in the day, the LGC used to send out unit letters. They don't do that anymore. They give us that or pass the buck to us to do that. And so page 12 starts with the unit letter, if you will. You have 60 days from tonight to respond to that unit letter. And that unit letter, for the most part, in some of the findings, has already been responded to, but you have to send it back to the LGC. The board has to sign off on that as part of that. You can see that's reconciliation of records, which we talked about, the deficit fund balances, which we talked about, the prior period adjustments, which we discussed, of some budget violations. We discussed that about transferring money back and forth, as well as some of this exceeded in departments. And then the GASB 84 issue where you've got to establish a new fund that wasn't set up during that process, as well as the late submission of records and then retention of records, which is part of that's lack of internal controls. That's what you got to do within 60 days, respond to that. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's been a while. I know a lot of people have done a lot of work to try and get it to this point. A lot of issues had to be corrected that are in good shape, and talking with Jonna, should have a good trial balance for June 30, 22, hopefully by the 1st of March, with June 30, 23 followed up by the 1st of April. I don't know if I've ever done it, and I've been doing this, I think, today makes 39 years. I started when I was about 10. But that I've been doing this, and I've never done two at the same time. I'm technically probably not gonna be doing two at the same time, but I'm gonna, at the end of the day, they'll be real close together, because I think I can do a lot of the testing simultaneous year and year, because if we're here, there ain't no reason not to test 23 data while we're testing the 22 data. Hopefully, one of the challenges sometimes is DHHS has to give us the Medicaid sample that they want us to look at. We've had some early conversations. You got to have a contract to get them. Once you get a contract, DHHS will provide us the samples they want us to look at from Medicaid population. And that's what we have to look at to satisfy them. Hopefully they'll be quick on the turnaround. I have another unit that they were very responsive to. In fact, I signed off on it Friday, I think, to help them. So they turned it around within, I think, 10 days, something like that. So if they can do that, our compliance folks, and I was telling Jonna earlier that we've got a staff about 4 or 5 people that I'll pull off some other stuff to focus to get, so I can come back and see you 2 or 3 more times this year and put some stuff in your rearview mirror and move on with life. I'm happy to answer any questions you have of me. Appreciate all the work people have done, and my best to try and see you as often as I can.
So you're saying we're in pretty good standings with the summary so far, not the findings, but the fund balance.
I am. The numbers, the numbers look good. The challenge is accounting for it. And that's what a lot of people have had to spend a lot of time getting everything back together. And you can see it's not just 6/30/21, but there was a trend in going up from back to 17 up to 21. And that trend continued this year. I haven't done them. Jonna said she did it. The 22 and 23 numbers should continue that, which is healthy for the county overall. It's just a matter of a lot of work had to be fixed. I think at the end of the June 30, 2020, there was some turnover in personnel along with a software conversion, which only exacerbated what wasn't a good situation at that point. Already there was most of the findings here, not all, but most of them were repeat findings from the June 30, 2020 year. So putting that stuff behind you to be able to go on and you run the county without having to worry about it being accounted for is a big deal. And that's what I hope can happen in the next, I hope by the time you get to June 30th, you're working on June 30, 2024 and not 22 or 23.
The county's debt decreased in 2021, $1,061,000. Is that correct? On page 4 here, my reading it.
It did, that's correct, because you got the bond anticipation note the prior year.
Right.
And I think in the 21 year, you got that large needs-based grant to supplement the project you were working on.
Right.
That was very close to the same amount as the bond anticipation note. My memory's right on that.
Do you think the 23-24 budget, this Medicaid expansion, will it have a lot of impact on what's going to be happening in 23-24?
I don't know that answer right now, to be honest with you.
Are you projecting more revenue finds as you found in this current year or 2021 year in the other 2 that you're working on?
Not necessarily. What I think from our experience going through the pandemic, doing the audits, our firm does about 27 of the counties in the state. So what we saw overall was that the funds coming in from the pandemic increased almost every county's fund balance that we did, some dramatically. And so when I say it looks to project upward over the next 2 years from what you've done, I'm saying there's a trend statewide from what we've seen to back that up. And so that's why I would say, yes, you're getting more money in. I don't think there's anything necessarily defined prior period, if you will. I hope that's answering your question.
Sort of.
There's a lot of money that came through as a result of pandemic that was there to try to help people get through it, help the governments deal with all the stuff they were having to deal with. And most of the time, it allowed the units of government to come out better financially at the end of it than at the beginning. There might be an exception. I'm not trying to say there's not, but for the most part, most of our governments came out significantly better. I'll say that.
But you are projecting the fund balance to continue to increase, going on what you've seen.
What I've seen, yes, sir, for 22 and 23, which one of the charts here shows the group weighted average, and I'll apologize in advance because we're going to struggle to get some group weighted average numbers after this current year. Unless we do them ourselves, because the state stopped doing group weighted averages by population groups and did it for everybody above 100 million in budget, and everybody below 100 million in budget, which is about useless. So I still believe that percentage, though. Years ago, I'm rambling and I apologize, but I'm trying to get you a good answer. Most auditors and accountants in the states thought that the LGC wanted to see a minimum of 8.33% as a fund balance percentage. And they put out a memo last spring that said that's a myth. It's not a general statute, blah, blah, blah. But what that is 1 month. You divide 100 by 12, you get 8.33%. Most counties have somewhere around a minimum of 20%, some higher on that. Being where you're at, you have to take a lot of things in consideration as you get past these next couple of audits. I take a hard look and start trying to set a policy for what you want, what you think's a minimum. So as you look at a project going forward, you can say, hey, if we do that project, it'll drop us below our policy. It doesn't mean you can't change your policy, make an exception to your policy, etc. But it means you had put thought into it. And if you make an exception to it, then there needs to be a good reason for it. So, and I've seen them vary significantly. I would struggle for any county to be much below 20%. I don't think it's all that healthy because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you could have a disaster, you could have other things pop up. And I would say the smaller you are as a county, the larger that percentage needs to be. But there's tons of stuff out there. The LGC has great stuff on the policy itself and on what other counties are using. What's it called? North Carolina Finance Direct, that you can get 100 emails a day from all the finance officers in the state. Those other finance officers would be happy to share their policies, etc. Or county managers would be happy to share their policies. So you'd have a feel for what similar size units of government are using. I apologize, I ramble, but I did want to.
No question?
You say we're gonna see you again in March.
I didn't say that one. I did say she'd get us a trial balance. We can do testing, and then I was saying this, we can get back up here, contract gets approved by the LGC. In a week or so, we can be back up here testing stuff. To get to serious stuff, we got to have that trial balance, which you said is coming March 1st. Once we get that, we can jump in with both feet and start trying to get this thing done. Because you're anxious to get it done, and I'm telling you that I want it done too. I want to help you catch it up. I want to put up this in the mirror for everybody. because it's a good thing. Your numbers are good. I want to be able to say, yep, we got it all done. You're able to do whatever you choose to do based on whatever the county's needs are and whatever, but you decide is best for the county. Yes, I would like to come see you just as fast as possible.
I think we need to thank the ladies in the finance department for the outstanding hard work that they have done. I know I've called them a blue million times. And they tell me I got to wait, that they got to find this, got to find that. So I want to make sure that y'all know that we appreciate what you've done to get this job done. And it sounds good. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing us to do it.
Can I ask a question? I guess not.
We'll take a break. Yeah. You don't take this break. No, we can take 5 minutes break. You not enough fun?
Okay. So we just had our report from Alan Thompson with the audit firm. So, he gave you some historical data for 2021, and he also gave you, some projected data. So for a visual, because I'm a very visual person, if you have your agenda packet, the item summary that we put in there for his presentation, it will give you a chart at the bottom. And this is the conservative projection for fund balance for the upcoming fiscal years of 22, 23, and 24. So you can kind of put a visual with what he was talking about, of how our fund balance is projected to increase for those fiscal years. So we appreciate everything that Alan Thompson and his group have done. So moving on, we have in finance developed a plan of action, which we shared with our finance committee last week. Thompson and Price has been gracious enough to offer to work with us for the 22 and 23 fiscal year audits. With the blessing of the staff at the North Carolina Treasurer's Office, the fiscal year 22 and 23 audits will be conducted, as Alan said, concurrently instead of consecutively. The current goal is to have the completed fiscal year 22 audit to the LGC by April 30th of 2024 and fiscal year 23 audit to the LGC by May 31st, 2024. While these are aggressive goals, we do feel that they are obtainable. And as we are working to clean up fiscal year 22 and 23, we are also making sure that everything in 24 is correct. So our ultimate goal is to have the fiscal year 24 audit done timely this year when it's due and done and out of the way. So with the fiscal year 21 audit behind us and the fiscal year 25 budget kicked off, we feel that we are in an excellent position to do just that, have everything caught up and done. So with that being said, you have in your packet a few things. The first item is an amendment to the contract for the fiscal year 2021 audit. You'll notice that the original fee was listed at $54,750. We have currently paid that much to the audit firm. They submitted an amendment to the contract for a modified total of $75,750. That would be an amended increase of $21,000. We have the funds in our 24 budget to cover this additional cost. Just to note, the increase is due to the extra time that it has taken to perform the 21 audit due to the conditions the books were in. So this is something that we will need to request that you take a vote on to approve this amended contract. Do you want me to continue or
We'll talk on this.
just
later.
get it all out of the way at once? Okay. So the other things that I have are a contract for fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. The fiscal year 22 contract is listed at $78,000, not to exceed that. And it does include the preparation of the financial statement. The fiscal year 23 contract is for $80,500, not to exceed, and also includes the preparation of the financial statement. The total cost for both contracts is $158,500, which would require a budget amendment, which we will discuss in item 13 of the agenda.
Okay, I think we need to talk on one of these contracts before we go through thought. What's the pleasure of the board here? Let's start it off here.
One question I have, Mr. Chairman. How does this affect due to the fact that we're on the watch list of spending no more than 50,000? How does this
We
get
would-
around that?
We would not be borrowing any funds.
Okay,
This would be,
got you.
yes, the amendment that we're proposing would be for using the
Existing.
balance, existing funds.
Anyone else?
I don't see where we have a lot, I mean, obviously with the first part, I mean, it's already for work done. The other two, I mean, there's not a lot of people out there that do this, and I don't see where we have a lot of choices to disrupt the flow. At this time, other than just bite the bullet and put this behind us.
What I was gonna say, what little research I have done has proven that there's not many accounting firms out there to do this kind of thing. There's about 4 left in the state, so Thompson Price looks like they're doing a good job now, so let's see where they're at. So I'll make a motion and we continue with that.
Motion on the floor, we continue with it, get a second.
One last question.
All right.
Where is this 158 coming from?
Fund balance,
Strictly out of fund balance.
strictly out of fund balance. And the reason for that is, and I will let you know, and it's on the amendment, when we get to that item. When we did the 24 budget, we inadvertently left out the cost of the 22 and 23 audit. We included the 21 audit in there. But we did not have the 22 and 23 audit in there, so it would be coming from fund balance.
But due to the fact that we had this increase from 21.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
So what is the total cost of all the auditing they have done? Complete.
Already complete. If we approve the amendment, the 21 audit will have cost $75,750. And then if we approve the other two, that would be an additional 158.5.
Was there any before that personnel?
I do not have the totals, but I can tell you that the 2020 audit was probably somewhere around the $55,000 range. And I think 1918, it has increased slightly over each year.
Will this be, excuse me, will this be all paid out at one time or over installments or?
It would be basically what they would do is send us an invoice. And we would pay each invoice separately, but it's pretty much gonna be back to back.
Okay, but we pay the 21 and then they finish 21.
21 is done.
Right.
And so once they invoice us, we pay that 22 and they invoice us for 23. We pay that and we're good to go. They are gonna go ahead and start working on it as soon as they know that the contract has been approved.
Yeah, and they'll probably progress bill for 22 and 23. And they didn't give a, they wanted to wait until the audit was complete before they put an amendment before you, so that they would know what the final cost was.
Now, do we have to hire a company every year for audit?
Yes.
Okay, it's normally not this much, so is that? Or do we,
Well,
or do we put like a budget line item?
we do. We have a budget line item every year just for audit fees.
What is that normally?
In the past, for 19 or 20, it's been roughly around $55,000. But if you look at, if you've researched these different audit firms, the ones that actually do handle county township audits, Thompson and Price is actually one of the lower costing firms. If we were to go out and bid on other firms, one, we don't know if anybody else would accept us because of the fact that we're behind them. And two, in my research, I have found that if we go with another firm, it's going to be roughly $15,000 to $20,000 more than these figures that they have given us now for 22 and 23.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Since we're talking 22, 23, did we not have $110,000 in that budget for that?
We did. We had budgeted for the 21 audit and the 24 audit. Well, 21 audit is really the only one that we budgeted for. We've got about $44,000 left in that line after we paid the $54,000 that we've already paid. So it was close to $100,000. So if we have the amendment for 21,000, we'll have probably a little less than $20,000 left in that line.
We need to make sure we get it in this next budget.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Well, we got a motion on the floor. Can we get a second? Approve it.
That's it. That's it.
Motion, second, move that we'll, go ahead and continue to pay this contract that we got. Any question for me before we go any further here? Now, this money, we might as well face it, it wasn't the board fault, might as well, we was told, misled that the ordinance was under the COVID-19. But it wasn't so, we were misled to that. So we got to eat the bullet and go with it. That's just the way I look at it. We should have been told we was not. So there it is. Any questions? Start with you, Rose. Do you approve this?
I approve.
How about you? Please, carried, motion carried. Unanimous, all in favor saying aye. All right, we're going to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on is qualification of the audit is.
actually Miss Sharp and Miss Powell. So if you recall, the last time we were before you, that was in November, where we presented some recommendations on changes to the pay and classification ordinance. The changes that were recommended at that time were to eliminate the hiring range, move the entire pay range 3%, and reclassify certain positions. Based on the feedback from the board and some of your concerns, we're back to revise that recommendation to, at this time, only eliminate the hiring. Any pay band changes or reclassifications will be considered as part of the fiscal year 25 budget process. So right now, we're just looking at having a formal document, which is attached, which would be the pay and classification ordinance, which sets out the current pay range scale, which is as it is currently, no changes. And then it lists all the grades for all the positions. So that was one item that we brought before you. The other item was to recommend some changes to clean up the personnel policy, to address things that were needed to be fixed because they're no longer accurate. Things like you no longer have a monthly payroll, you have a biweekly payroll. We wanted to make sure that it calls in the personnel ordinance that the hiring range is in there, so the language would be eliminated from that. Clarify some of the setting of the hiring salaries and salaries upon promotion. And also looking at some clarification on the pay for temporary assignment. So we're before you tonight, and Ashley, please jump in, to ask you to consider to eliminate the hiring range and adopt the current ranges as they are, minus the hiring range, and to make the personnel policy personnel policy changes that were previously put before you.
Does the board have any questions?
You know, I don't have any question, but I'd like to see this put off until budget time and bring this back up at budget time. Right now, see where we're gonna be standing at budget time. I looked at what you gave me before and I liked it, but I think right now, I think this is just me talking now. I feel like we can do this at budget time, look at it at budget time. That's just my opinion. I'm going around the board.
Let's see, with this change in doing away with the hiring rate, going to the minimum, using that as the hiring rate.
Right. Because the salaries that are budgeted are the minimum salaries or what people are in currently. We're, Mr. Jeffries, we're not proposing any of the band movement or reclassifications that we were in November. The only thing that's being proposed related to the pay scales is to eliminate the below minimum hiring range. That has no impact on the budget because that's not, because all the positions are budgeted at minimum or above. So we pulled back what we presented to you previously.
Okay. So,
because we understood your concerns and you're absolutely right. What we presented is best taken into account with the 25 budget process.
so the money is already in the budget
Yes,
at the minimum.
yes,
We didn't budget a hiring rate.
no,
We budgeted a minimum rate.
no. But removing that hiring minimum is really to help you be more competitive. It's currently tied to the probationary period, but that's not typically what a probationary period is for. And where you have trouble recruiting employees, going ahead and employees know that they're going to be paid the minimum of the salary upon hire should help you in your recruitment. And the language proposals also help make it a little clearer that if you have to hire above the minimum, which is fairly normal right now, the process of how that's to occur and what needs to be approved. So it really provides a lot of clarification on some of your practices that are currently not articulated as well as they could be.
Let's go back to one thing, and I brought it up when we first brought this, you brought this before us. There was a couple pay scales in there that I thought shouldn't have been moved because of the increase that they received. Were these put back?
Everything was put back to where it was. No pay, no salary changes have been made except to remove the below minimum hiring rate. So nothing, everything's exactly the way it was.
Did that impact, how would that impact someone already here? If they were on the lower range or just above the higher end rate?
So currently, we do have some employees who are on probation, and we do have some that are already hired in and above the minimum. That's at the department head's discretion. So we do have a few that's out there, but they've already, or they've budgeted for that minimum, so there won't be any effect. You know, we'll just make the changes in HR and payroll. But they will still be in their probationary period, but they'll just receive their increase in advance.
Basically, what this is doing is getting everything in line.
Correct. Because we do have people that apply, they look at it, and I know it's just a couple $1,000s, but that makes a huge difference. We go ahead and give them their money in advance, but we still keep them on probation.
So y'all heard the presentation, or what's pleasant the most?
This is only in HR and.
This is.
This is county.
Countywide, oh, okay.
I'll give the DSS paperwork.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept classification of ordinance and personnel ordinance changes.
Got a motion on the floor to accept personnel change. Could I get a second? Second. And second, also by Ms. Frank. Y'all heard the motion. Comments? All right, all in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, raise your hand. So carried unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Budget amendment number 9, number 10.
Okay, this is my last one, I promise. Okay, so we have 3 budget amendments. We'll start with budget amendment number 9. Okay, this is for a grant received from the Community Foundation of the Dan River Region, or CFDRR, for our Parks and Rec Department. The justification for this budget amendment: the Caswell County Parks and Recreation Department has received a performance grant from the CFDRR for the procurement of child-safe and durable playground equipment and to implement safety measures, including surfacing material, and the grant period runs from January the 10th, 2024 through December the 16th, 2024. The amount of the grant is $12,500. It does not require a match.
Need a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Second. See, all the second, the road, all in favor, saying aye. Motion.
All right, budget amendment number 10. This is an amendment for the audit fees for fiscal year 22 and 23. The justification, when the fiscal year 2024 budget was developed, we inadvertently did not include the estimated cost for the fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023 audits. The anticipated completion date of both audits is by May 31st of 2024 within fiscal year 2024. Given this is a one-time expense to catch up the audits, we are recommending using fund balance appropriation to cover the cost of the 2 audit contracts. The current available balance in professional services audit expenditure line is $44,250, which is needed to pay the final billing for fiscal year 2021. Therefore, the additional appropriation needed is for the cost of 2 years of audits. The estimated cost for fiscal year 22 audit is $78,000 not to exceed and includes preparation of financial statement. Estimated cost for fiscal year 2023 audit is $80,500 not to exceed, and it also includes preparation of the financial statement. So the total amount of the amendment requested is $158,500.
How much you said?
$158,500.
I'll make a motion.
I said,
You made a motion to approve?
Yes.
You second. Motion made by Mr. Holt, second by Mr. Dixon to approve. Any question? Stop right here. All in favor, saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous.
Got one final amendment. I'm in audit mode, sorry. You have a health department budget amendment. We did an agenda item for this budget because it is a huge budget amendment. It is an authorization to include an additional part-time, well, it's a full-time position, but it's only a 50% position. The action requested is that the Board of Commissioners approve a health department budget amendment and authorize an additional 50% full-time nurse practitioner. The health department has received an additional $222,589 in state funding. The following information provides information on the source, frequency, amount, purpose, and uses of the new funding, much of which is recurring. In addition to appropriating the fiscal year 2024 revenues, the health department is requesting authorization for a new full-time 50% nurse practitioner. And the attachment that you should have includes every line that is being affected. I don't know if you want me to go through each line item or if you already reviewed them. Try to answer any questions that you might have.
You finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got that, thing coming from Ms. Cummings, y'all heard it, like 50% match for.
We're looking at $72,000.
For the nurse practitioner,
Yeah, or my reading is wrong.
let's see here. Health infrastructure. Part-time nurse practitioner salary. Okay, so it includes the salary plus benefits. Includes $119,222. That includes FICA, retirement, salary, insurance.
what will this primarily be? The new position be used to address what's going on that's not already being had?
Good question. I do not know the answer to that question currently.
I'm just going down. I mean, what is all this other, are we talking half?
Well, the only thing that is 50% is the nurse practitioner position.
I mean, there's a whole lot of money down through here.
Yes, the total of the amendment is $222,589, and it is all in state funding. So there's no match to it. It's just being provided by the state.
Yeah, to address what it would cover, I think Kelly, their nurse practitioner, is getting ready to retire. So they need to bring someone in to kind of take her place, get them trained up.
And
So
she's
that-
full-time.
Yeah, she's full-time at the moment, so bringing somebody in new to
Part-time.
replace her would be beneficial for them. Yeah,
So,
And did you say it would be completely state funded?
that's the question.
Yes, ma'am.
so we're not paying half?
No, sir.
When did that come in then?
It's a 50
FTE.
Right, it's a 50% employee, so they're full-time and they get benefits, but they're only working half the hours. So they get 50% of the health insurance. And instead of working 80 hours, they would work 40 hours.
You should have led with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad, I'm sorry about that.
So bottom line, what's the money we're talking?
$222,589, state funding. No county funding whatsoever. This is just money that they receive from the state, and part of it would go towards that nurse practitioner position.
I understand you said no county for.
No county. Leave with that.
All right, what's the pleasure, vote?
So read it. So moved. Okay. Gotta get a second.
Second by Elder, and motion made by Mr. McKay. All in favor saying aye, before I get that one, was taking lead on the table here, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor saying aye. All opposed, carried unanimous.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is disposed. Use the hit.
Oh, yes, sir. Commissioners, in recent weeks, there's been much discussion about what we do with disposed, used vehicles when we lease or buy a new truck, car, what have you. Currently, we're either trading that used vehicle in against a new one and reducing the lease price or the straight out buy price, or either we're retaining that vehicle and placing it into the fleet for that car. And the discussion tonight will be, do we want the commissioners to have say so as to what happens to that vehicle that's being replaced?
Any vehicles run?
Sir?
Does any of these vehicles run?
Yes, sir. They all run, but they get updated. We don't have any new vehicles coming in with the exception of the sheriff's vehicles, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But these all run, but they've got age on them. The question is, do we put them in our fleet and use them as backups? Or do we trade them in and get a few dollars against a new vehicle? That's the decision we make.
My understanding of the question you're asking is, do you want Scott to bring it to us?
That's the question.
I think it's very logical.
I do too.
That you would bring it before the board and let us make the decision as to what is done with the old vehicles, because up to this point, there's been a lot of confusion. You've heard presentations about vehicles are in bad shape, that's why we need to replace them. You approve the money to have the vehicle leased and then find out that the said vehicle's been put back into the fleet for the county. So the upkeep cost of it will continue on. If the board wishes to do that, that's fine, but the board ought to be making a decision on it and not have the fallacy in our minds that when we approve new leases, that the vehicles are automatically going back to the leasing company when the lease term is up. In other words, the board ought to make the decision if we add those used vehicles back into the fleet, or we simply turn them back in on a lease or sell them outright to lower the cost of the new vehicles we have to bring in. That's my opinion. So I thought we were turning all those vehicles back in.
So most of them are, but there are vehicles that have not been turned back in. Like solid waste is example.
I think we would maybe need to kind of know the value of some of those vehicles. As to whether to turn them back in or whatever, sell
Plus the need in the department.
them, the need in the department.
I don't think it's a big discussion item. I think, you know, you come to us and, hey man, this thing's gonna take $20,000 to fix it and it's worth $5. I mean,
Well, that was the point of leasing vehicles, was to get rid of some of the maintenance
yeah.
that we were having to pay.
Most of our meetings don't last like this. I mean, we would have time to have 5 minutes to talk about it.
I thought in the contract, when we signed that contract, that the contractor that we signed the rental, they would buy these cars back from us. I think that's what it was in that contract, I'm not sure. But
That's what I thought too, but
So
that's
you-
not the
can I
case.
say something? I help manage the fleet, and in the past, since I've been here almost 3 years, when we turn a vehicle back in, because we want to get new vehicles, we get gains from it, whatever that vehicle is worth. When we turned in all of the trucks, it was like over $30-some thousand that we just applied that money to the pay of the current fleet that we have. We just recently sold back, well, we turned it back into enterprise. They did the Ford Focuses. 4 Ford Focuses were sent to auction, and I think it was a total of $18,000 out of the 4. We received a check, we deposit that into the sale of fixed assets. So we do sell it. We give it back to them, they sell it. They either lower the payments and take it off the current principal of the loans, or they send us a check. The past 2 vehicles, Tony had them send us a check, and well, Mr. Smith had them send us a check. But in the past, we just rolled it over into our current payments to lower the payments on the new vehicles.
Is that being done with all the vehicles?
All the vehicles on the fleet. We haven't sold any the only vehicles that I'm aware of that have been sold, the yearly surplus auction that they have or whatever, those are all sheriff vehicles. And I don't manage the sheriff vehicles, just what's in the county fleet.
How many
ones.
Ford Focuses
Are left 2.
What happened with them?
I think either DSS or Family Services they're still being used. 2 of them are still being used because one of was it Family Services that had an accident? DSS had an accident, their vehicle went out. We had them all at the lot at the courthouse because we were gonna get rid of all of them. But then we needed a backup for the one DSS was in an accident.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what the board ought to be part of making decisions on. If all of them didn't automatically go back in when the lease was over with, then the board should have input into what happens to them, not moving. to
But these
the
leases have been over for a while. We just now got around to, Mr. Smith said, let's try to, sell them because they weren't being used or whatever. But they were 2016, so they've been off of the lease program for a while, other than maintenance.
Others than maintenance.
Yeah, we pay like $5, on the fleet, we pay $5 a vehicle to maintain the maintenance program, where they keep record of all the maintenance and all that stuff.
So easy way of wording this would be if they're not automatically going back in to be turned back in on lease, that the board would want to have.
Before we dispose of them in any
In
way.
any way.
Yeah. That's fine.
The term lease is misleading, so.
Yes, because it's not really a lease like,
We're buying the vehicles, then we have
Yeah.
the option to do what we want to at the end of the lease. And the board's gonna make a decision, turn it back in, or another department needs that vehicle.
Yeah.
One question I got, Ms. Miller,
Uh-huh.
you said you keep up with county vehicles besides the sheriff's office, or any of those leased vehicles with the sheriff's office?
yeah, they're leased also, but
I don't keep up with what they do with them. Like, that's all the sheriff.
Okay.
I can see what we have, but as far as what is done with those when they, are sold at the surplus, I don't have any say so.
Okay. How are those vehicles?
They do it the same way. When the leases, well, when they no longer can use the vehicles or want to get rid of the vehicles, it works the same way. They turn it back in, they sell it. When they sell those, that money goes towards the sheriff vehicles. If they get gains off of them, then that's applied to the sheriff's vehicles payments. Because there's two categories, the county vehicles, the sheriff vehicles. If they sell vehicles and they get a gain, we lower the payments on the sheriff vehicles. Or we get a check and it goes.
Well, the reason I was asking was, they have some that they were looking at taking offline, but I think they're actually waiting until they find out if these other vehicles go through or not.
Because just in March, at the surplus auction, I think the sheriff's department sold like 15 vehicles. Was that right, Jennifer?
So that money goes back.
To the sheriff, well, yeah, to the general fund,
General fund.
yes.
Besides, excuse me, anything that was seized, that money goes to school board.
That's school. Yeah, that's school. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure you knew how the process went.
What's present, George?
Well, it depends on, Mr. Smith, could you clarify? When I said that I would make the motion to the effect of if the vehicles were not automatically turned back in on a lease, that the deposition of the vehicles would come before the board. We would decide whether they were kept or not, before they're moved to another department. But you're saying that at the end of it, it's not a traditional lease. We own the vehicles at the end of it. Yes, sir.
We own them, but if they're on the lease program still, Enterprise, like those focuses, Enterprise will still take them and try to sell them for us.
And then we don't have to pay the auction fees or anything like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to word this motion where they're not automatically turned back in at the end of the lease to go toward that lease payment, that the board will decide the deposition of the deal. Right. That is my motion.
Well, I think the county manager brings it through, like you said, and says, look, I've got these amount of vehicles. These are the mileage on them. This is what they're worth. I either have some use for them, or I don't have any use for them. And so then the board makes a determination of whether we turn them in and sell them, or we put one over here, one over there, and sell the rest of them.
So how would you want me to change your amendment? I mean, I thought that's what I said.
I second yours, now we got discussion, so.
And just so you know, Enterprise is really good about part of the maintenance program is they keep up with the mileage. And when we got rid of those 5 trucks, they let us know, hey, you got this many vehicles and you can get really high gains on it if you trade it back in now and get new vehicles. So they really let us know when we should and when we shouldn't, if they don't think you can get enough money out of it.
Did you second go last?
Yes, I do.
What's the motion? I didn't hear it.
That if the vehicles do not automatically go back in toward the lease at the end of the time, turn back in Enterprise, that the board of commissioners will decide the deposition or the final resting place of these vehicles. We will be the body that makes the decision on whether we keep them or sell.
From the recommendations of.
With the recommendations of the county manager.
So,
Motion made by Mr. Dixon, second by Mr. Hope. Y'all heard the motion. Now we'll put it on the table for court. Anybody got any questions or else? I'll call for the vote. All in favor saying aye. All opposed? Heard enough. Okay. So county manager update.
Yes, sir. Tomorrow afternoon, we should hear from the LGC with a decision as to whether we can lease the 5 sheriff's vehicles from Enterprise. We've got a Zoom conference and it'll be a long Zoom, but I think we're somewhere in the middle there, so we'll get a determination. If we're successful, we can go ahead and sign the paperwork and get the vehicles on the road. If not, then we just have to bring back the board, decide whether we want to buy 1 or 2 with cash. That's what it boils down to. Less than $50,000 each. So we'll do them. Co-op Extension Service was notified that the Golden Leaf has awarded them a $120,000 grant to expand training and education programs in the union livestock training, field mapping with drones, applications, and reduced teal vegetable crop production. So we do not have an amendment for that because we were just notified, I think, Friday of that grant, so that's at the next meeting. Also, Commissioner Jeffries signed a letter this week to the NC Department of Insurance. That reads as follows: Castle County Board of Commissioners are in opposition to the proposed increase in homeowners insurance rates statewide by an average of 42.2% by the North Carolina Rate Bureau. We stand united with the citizens of our county to the opposition of this proposed rate increase. Thank you for your consideration. Went out Friday, I think. Next, the historical courthouse painting project has been completed. The floor has been cleaned, the furniture has been organized, the video equipment has been hooked up, so the building is ready for use. So we can start scheduling the building again. We are still awaiting additional bids to update the historical courthouse audio system. We are getting more bids, it just haven't arrived yet. And finally, we kicked off the 2024-25 budget process several weeks ago, where the department heads were briefed on the new procedures required to request funds, and data that will be submitted back to the finance department no later than the 27th of February by those departments. We're moving forward. That's it.
This was just an X-ray budget that they turned in, right?
We're kicking off the next year's budget. Getting information, we're training the department heads, and they've got forms to fill out. They'll send those forms back into finance by the 27th.
Did you give them that?
That's it. I'm gonna bring it tomorrow to visit.
Yeah, sit down.
Yeah.
All right, you got anything else? Commission comments. Thank you, please. Let's go ahead. Okay. Now some upcoming events, February 15th, 2024 Junktown meeting at 6 p.m. at the Yancey Town Hall. February 19th, 2024 Board of Commission meeting at 6:30 p.m. at Gun Memorial Library. I need a motion to go into closed.
Wait, just a minute, Mr. Chairman. We're not gonna be back at courthouse next meeting. This is ready to go.
I would say would be.
You don't want the
Audio has been hooked up.
The old sound system.
The old sound system still there?
Yes,
I'm just asking.
it's ready.
The sound system, look at it, it's all been done to it.
Sound system. It's the same.
It's new. The sound system's not in yet, right?
No, sir, the old system is in. We're still getting bids on the new improved system, so hopefully we'll have that in several weeks.
Oh, getting in the beds?
Getting the bids in several weeks. Then it'll take several months to get it installed.
Anything else for the going to closed session?
Are we going to the courthouse or we staying here? Are we going to the old courthouse or are we staying here?
We stand here until we get down to. That's the plan.
All right.
Okay, I need a motion to move to closed session.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Section.
Motion made to go into closed section, to consult with an attorney employee or retained by the public body in order to pursue the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged North Carolina General Statute 143-1318.11 to discuss the matter related to the location of expanding energy or other business in the area served by the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged North Carolina General Statute 143-318.A, the reference phone and to consider the qualification completion, performance, characteristic, condition of appointment, or condition of initial employment. Privilege is hereby acknowledged. North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 for reference A and for reference 6. We now.